My name is Kent Wingert, and I'm an employee at OPI Systems. This is a demonstration of the OPI Blue manual fan control. If you have an OPI Blue system and you're looking to go beyond the monitoring stage and just seeing what's going on in your grain with temperatures and moisture, the next step would be to get fan control. Fan control basically comes in two different levels. We have the manual, so you can remotely turn your fans off and on. And then we also have an automated fan control piece, which we'll go through in a different video. So in this particular case, I want to touch on the manual fan control piece. So in order to have manual fan control with OPI Blue, you need to make sure that you have a weather station with your system. That's going to give us ambient conditions as far as temperature and RH outside the bin, and that's going to allow us to make solid grain management decisions as far as when our fans need to be on and when our fans should be off. So as far as the user interface goes, we've tried to keep it as simple as possible to make it very intuitive. So in this particular example here, we've got a site set up for manual fan control. Realistically, any site that you have, or any bins I should say, on site that you have set up for manual fan control are just going to be listed off on the fan control page. In this particular example, we just have a single bin. Honestly, the user interface is as simple as possible. So as far as the manual goes, it's just like operating a DVD player. There's a start and a stop button. We also have a little bit more flexibility than just start or stopping the fans. We have the ability, if we want to set a timer. And what that's going to allow us to do is set a duration in minutes or hours that we want the fan to run before it automatically shuts itself off once the timer reaches 0. So when we look at the manual fan control page here on this specific bin, realistically, like I mentioned before, we do have the play button or the start button in this particular case. If we wanted to start our fans on this particular bin, we're just going to go ahead and hit that button. A pop-up is going to come up on the screen, and that's just going to make us aware that we're looking to start the fans. Are we okay to start the fans? We want to make sure nobody's around the fan that could potentially cause an injury. We want to make sure we're not making a mistake in selecting the incorrect bin, just to make sure that there's grain in the bin and we're not going to do any damage. So in this particular case, we go ahead and we click Start Fan. You'll see the system now go and say that it's turning the fan on. It takes a couple seconds as the information goes up to the cloud and then back down to the actual fan itself, or fan hardware that's tied into the fans, and then the fan kicks on. So it's a matter of a few seconds, depending on how reliable our internet connection is. It is quite robust and quite responsive. So we turn the fans on, we let the fans run for whatever duration we determine is reasonable. In this particular case, if we had a weather station on our site, the weather station gives us EMC values for the ambient air outside. And what we want to make sure that we're doing is, if we have a specified target that we're trying to reach, an EMC target for the grain that's in the bin, we want to make sure that the calculated EMC values based off of the weather information, so the temperature and the ambient RH, and we're looking to dry the grain in that specific bin, are the EMC levels that are being read on our weather station lower than the EMC levels of the grain inside that bin. If they are, we know with enough airflow and a long enough duration that presenting that air or pushing that air with our fans into the grain mass is going to begin to dry the bin and lower the overall EMC value or moisture level of that grain to our specified target. So there is valuable information there that the weather station can provide. So it's not just a guessing game with turning the fans off and on remotely manually. There's some information there that helps us make a solid, educated decision when the fan should be on and when they should be off. Conversely, if that EMC value is higher than what the EMC value is of the grain in the bin, we know that it's no longer bringing air that has the properties necessary to dry the grain mass. So we're going to want to turn the fans off during those specified times to make sure we're not wasting energy and being inefficient in trying to dry and get down to our specified targets. If we need to turn the fans off, it really is as simple as pushing, in this case, the stop button. It'll take a few seconds again as the information goes down and communicates directly with the fans. and it turns the fans off. It's as simple as it gets, off and on. The other option I mentioned that we can do, depending on what we want to do, there is a little clock icon here, or the timer button. If we go ahead and click that, it's going to allow us here to go ahead and set a time value there. So in this particular case, we can type in the number of hours that we want. Let's just go ahead and say we put it in for 2 hours, and then once we've gone ahead and done that, we click the start button, validate that we want to start that fans, and it goes through the same process as far as starting the fans up again. Once they've started up, now we'll have a timer that counts down and gives a visual on when the fans are going to shut themselves off. So that's manual fan control. I hope you found this helpful. If you've got any questions, again, you can reference the fan control section of your manual on page 71. If you don't have a hard copy of the manual, there's a link in the bottom left-hand corner for the manual itself. You can just go ahead and click on that, look at the manual, page 71 again. If you've got any further questions beyond that, give our customer care line a call at 1-800-661-1055.